Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The rest of the data will be down below this video in the description. I know you look and see this behind every video I do, half a nut, fuck you. Well, that's ANSI's mission statement said by Russ Cheney, who was chairman in 2019 when he called me up on the phone and left me this message of half a nut, fuck you. And that is the quality that's dispensed by ANSI and the American National Crediting Board. They're a cohort in this because ANSI took over complete control over ANAP in 2018. This video today is about Pfizer lied and people died. Quality expert Daryl Guberman explains why. And here we go. We have a couple of interesting guests as well, business owners in this, and my fellow citizens. We have one person in particular that I want to really get this out because she basically made a confession about the COVID-19 virus escaping from the Biohazard 4 laboratory in Wuhan, China. She absolutely did. In any phlebotomy lab, forensic lab, or biolevel 4 laboratory, there are supposed to be controls. You're supposed to, from one laboratory to another, you're supposed to have consistencies. Because if you don't, you'll have an escape. Well, she basically confessed to that escape, and this is her. Pamela Sale, at the time, was the vice president of accreditation for laboratory accreditation. She watched over ASCLD Lab, which is owned and operated by the American National Standards Institute and the American National Crediting Board. You also have the American National Crediting Board, which is also a standalone for laboratory accreditation. And this is what Pamela said. One of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic labs, phlebotomy labs, and also biolevel 4 labs around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that these labs choose to follow or not. She basically said why it escaped, why the virus escaped. Okay, without a doubt. No controls at all. I added, so I can tell you directly, I added phlebotomy and biolevel 4 labs. She said forensic labs, a laboratory is a laboratory. They certify these laboratories to ISO 17025, and you have failure. Very bad failure. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has federal agencies and corporations on board. And here we go. In 2015, Randy Doherty, the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware, and he also sat as the principal on the IAF tax report, handed over leadership of the IF, which is incorporated in Delaware, the International Accreditation Forum, to this communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality since 1994. He is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, which is out of Beijing, China. He is mandated by China to take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations on board. To make matters a little bit better, we're going to be coming up on that as well to show this to you. But right now, we're going to go back and say Randy Doherty in 2017 was being advertised on the Department of Homeland Security website as the vice president of ANAB for a PPS certification, while his I'd say, person over there, the Communist National, was on the IAF. So is there a cybersecurity issue? Possibly, because the Department of Homeland Security got their data taken. In fact, any corporate or any, not only corporate, but not any government agency that sat on ANSI had their data taken and still has their data taken. We have about the Department of Homeland Security coming up very shortly, but I want to show you that Randy in 2017, you will see it, he's being advertised, a private not-for-profit company being advertised on a government agency is a no-no. That is what I've gathered. I've looked in all the data. I've called people in the government, and they said it's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have a private company being advertised on a government website. You have the factor that ANSI and ANAB sat on the International Accreditation Forum, and they sat now while Zhao Jinwu was watching over them, being controlled and influenced by Communist China between 2015 and 2021. To make matters better, you have not only ANAB and ANSI sitting on the IAF, but you also have Pakistan and Iran, who harbored Osama bin Laden. And you have Hassan Rouhani of Iran, who said, saying death to America is easy. We need to express it. Isn't that a tender moment in a terrorist society? Nice. And these countries sit, okay? And I'm not talking about the people of these countries. I'm talking about leadership like this. Oh my goodness. Randy complimented Zhao Jinwu in 2016 in an article in the IAF concerning the situation, concerning how proud he was that Zhao Jinwu's been in our pants since 1994 and that he got promoted to chairman. He got promoted to chairman of the IAF. There are over 10 different registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited certification. 10. Let's go now to Homeland Security. This is a good one. Homeland Security. I told you about Randy. Now we're going to get deeply involved with Homeland Security. And they've been sitting on ANSI, or actually not only ANSI, but they've been also being controlled and manipulated by Communist China because their membership with ANSI, Department of Homeland Security. Okay, in 2017, September, you have, this is page 1 this is an actual web page. Okay, you clicked your mouse and you went to page 2, and you can see Randy Doherty right over here being advertised as a vice president. It gives you the time and gives you that it was the official website. I did a video on it concerning this, that he should not be on there as a private concern, and they took him off. In fact, this is in September of 2017. A mere several months later, in April of 2018, this is the front page of the Department of Homeland Security. And when you click it for the second page, this is the way it comes out. And we're going to show you this again. You have 2017 in September. You have page 1, 2018, April, you have page 1. You click it, you see Randy over here. For 2017, just a mere couple months later, you see Randy had been taken off the Department of Homeland Security. On top of it, at the time, business owners, my fellow citizens, my customers and prospective customers, you had a Phil Matheson. Phil Matheson, okay, sits on the Department of Homeland Security, and he's considered the Executive Director of Office of Standards, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Well, this is bid rigging if I ever heard it. Absolutely. Just remember those terms, bid rigging. He was making $262,000 as a royalty payment back then. He's still sitting on the board. $262,000 as a royalty payment. While Randy was on being advertised on the DHS. Do you see that? ANSI, ANAB, they all sit together. Isn't that cozy? This is what a royalty payment is. I would suggest you stop the video and read this so that we can continue on, so that we can continue and this video gets done relatively early. You also have the Department of Commerce sitting on ANSI's board. Now, the Department of Commerce, as far as the Department of Commerce is concerned, you have the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which runs 50 MEPs, manufacturing extension partnerships throughout the United States. That is the most bogus fraud that you can ever be perpetrated, because they've taken both federal funds and state funds, taxes, our tax money. 65% of it, actually 64.85% of it, goes to pay their management and personnel and bonuses, and most of those people have no clue about manufacturing. In fact, I got a letter from a former employee of a NIST MEP that said that we used to joke around the office, Daryl, and one not-for-profit would be dealing with another not-for-profit, and we'd be calling it money laundering. So you have NIST. They also have NIST SP 800. That is basically a certification for cybersecurity. Well, they couldn't keep their pants on because in 2013, the National Vulnerability Database run by the Department of Commerce got hacked by no other than China. So has NIST as well. Sitting on ANSI's board, a member of NIST, and and here we go again. Here's another good title. Gordon Gillerman, Director of Standards Coordination Office at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Sounds like the same title as Phil Matheson from the Department of Homeland Security. He's making 120 grand. 120 grand tax-free royalty payment, Gordon Gillerman. And we're going to show you this, business owners, because you can't make this up. There are 50, this is why manufacturing has taken a beating these last 20 plus years, is you have the MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership data. That's all they do, is take in the money and don't distribute it properly. They'll tell you they do, but we know differently, and we have the proof. Now we get a little bit deeper into this mess with Pfizer, okay? And as I said, this video today is about Pfizer lied and people died. Yes, it's very true, and QA expert Daryl Guberman explains why. Take a look at this, business owners. You have the factor that you have Zhao Jinwu in 2017 standing in the lab at Wuhan, China, the BioLevel 4 lab that released that. A lot of professionals, a lot of specialists said that virus was released. And you heard what Pamela Sales said. The vice president of laboratory basically confessed to the fact that it was released. On top of it, ANSI, ANAB are underwriters. So since he runs the China National Accreditation Services, and it's equivalent in accreditation to ANSI, ANAB, the liability falls on ANSI, ANAB because they are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum and the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. Here he is in 2017 handing over a certificate, ISO 17025, for laboratory, while he was the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services and also the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware. Here's a man of the hour, Mr. Fauci. Mr. Fauci we're going to be getting to, but he was asked under deposition by Senator Rand Paul about gain-of-function research. Fauci said, "We don't know. I don't know. I have no clue." Yeah, unbelievable. We're going to get to this, but the CDC and NIH, you will see, sits on ANSI's board as well, close to Pfizer, close to Johnson Johnson, etc., close to the USDA. And here they are. CDC sits on ANSI's board. You also have the National Institute of Standards and National Institute of Health sitting on ANSI's board. You also have, here it goes, Johnson Johnson, who skipped several quality processes and standards, and I think if I remember correctly, they had 60 million vials of COVID vaccine returned because of contamination. You call that a quality operation? They're sitting on supposedly, well, that's what their mantra is, so I guess that's Johnson Johnson too. Oops, half enough fuck you by Russ Cheney. We also have Pfizer. Pfizer had about 15 million vials of COVID returned to them because of contamination, lacking quality standards, and they're all accredited by these accrediting bodies like ANSI, ANAB, etc. We have Albert Bourla in the wings. Albert, what do you have to say about Pfizer?
Daryl, I will tell you. I was a 59-year-old then. I'm in good health. I didn't have to take it. I didn't want to skip line. The Pfizer is 171 years of professionalism, where the vaccine was made in the sun. It was all clear. I don't take it, but you should take it. You should take it. You should take it because if you have family members, don't you scared? Are you scared? Oh my goodness, I like to bite your leg.
Take it easy. Take it easy, Albert. Anyway, he sounds just like Bela Lugosi. That was Bela Lugosi impersonating Albert Bourla. So here you go. Here goes the connecting the dots of medical oversight collusion. I'm sorry that Stephen Hahn, I don't know where the heck Stephen Hahn is now, but this is the FDA. This is the part you want to look at. FDA, Pfizer, and ANSI, ANAB. They all sit together, cohabitat, whatever that word is. Probably having fun with their, caviar and champagne and cigars. But you can see this. This is a very simplistic flowchart of what is going on here. On top of that, I told you about Fauci and Rand Paul and all the rest of that concerning gain of function research. We pulled some documentation from a China booklet, and we will send it to you because this was a converted booklet. And this is the second annual workshop in Wuhan, China. It was held between May 17th to 19th, 2017, several years before COVID really sprung in the United States. And if you read this, you're going to find out that they were prepping for a pandemic, worldwide pandemic, and gain of function is the very first item of business. We have the actual booklet here. If you want it, we will gladly send it to you. If you're saying, oh, is that true? Yes, it is true, because here you have Zhao Jinwu standing in the lab in Wuhan, China, issuing an ISO 17025 certification for laboratory. He is the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China, and also at the time, the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum. We have the Federal Trade Commission sitting on board of ANSI, a lot of government agencies. You have the FDA. In fact, the FDA is good. Not really. They sit there with ANAB. They also sit on ANSI's board, and they sit and being controlled and manipulated by communist China from 2015 to 2021. We have the factor, and here it is. In fact, there's an article that goes along with this. I will hold on a second, let you read it. Or you can stop the video and come back to this. But it said, FDA expands ANAB recognition under the accredited third-party certification program. You find anything wrong with it? The FDA sits on ANAB's board? That, to me, is worse than a fox watching a hen house. You have the USDA. USDA sitting there right over by the rest of these clowns. You also have the factor of the Department of Defense. Okay, and I made a comment in another video, and you'll have it down below as well, that Lockheed Sikorsky and also Boeing, a collaboration to make the Defiant SB-1 aircraft, lost that contract to Bell, to their 280, the V-280 Valor. And I've told Mitch Schneider, the CEO of Bell, who used to be an employee of Lockheed working on the F-16 and other programs, and worked in the Middle East and European affairs with that company. But I told him that Bell will probably, more than likely, lose the contract because you have Lockheed, Sikorsky, and Boeing sitting right over by the Department of Defense, the organization, the agency that approves the contract. We looked further and we found that here it is. ANAB is an underwriter. ANSI ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Forum in Delaware, and also ILAC, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, which means liability if they released that virus from Wuhan and people's family members died, not listening to Albert Bourla, who says, well, I'm a 59-year-old man, I'm very healthy, I didn't want to skip line. He should have been first in line if he's the CEO. If he's the CEO, who the heck knows? But he did not. Let's put Albert down. So anyway, they are underwriters. This is what an underwriter is, business owners. Right over here. You can stop the video. I'm not going to read it. We also pulled a contract. This is called bid rigging, and here you go. You have it called out on a government contract that ANSI ANAB are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum, and at the time in 2018, basically they invited Communist China into the Department, the Department of Defense. Yes, they invited China into their organization by mandating or by requiring the IAF. You also have the Department of Justice. And the last person I'm going to show to you, business owners, is very true and poignant. He always talks about, he just talked about TikTok recently on November 15th, 2022. He talked about TikTok. And he said it should be taken out of everybody's phone. It's China's way to spy. Also, China is a detriment to the United States of America and the way we live, our way of life. And you find out that he basically said this. So many times he beats his Chinese manufactured drum. He said that The whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the U.S., and that Americans must step up to defend themselves. Well, let me tell you this, business owners, while we have Christopher Wray here. He's the biggest... I cannot even say the word. I will not say it. But his clown suit is made in China. He forgot his rubber bulbous nose. That's made in China. The flappy feet that the clowns wear, his shoes are made in China. His tag over here of the FBI, that's made in China. Everything about him is Chinese, except his tongue. You never can tell. It may say underneath, made in China. But let me just show you this. The FBI between 2015 and 21, yes, they sit on ANSI, and they were hacked by China. We have the data. A lot of their personnel's private files, and information were taken from the FBI database. On top of it, in 2016, the FBI signed a contract for laboratory with the FBI signed it with ANAB, ANSI ANAB. They signed a contract, okay? Isn't that nice, Christopher Wray? It is absolutely abominable what is going on here, Chris. We're going to put you down. So we have the situation here that, yes, people did die from this vaccine. It was not tested properly from all the information that we have. You've seen it. You've heard it. You've had people, sports figures drop on the field, musicians drop, young individuals. I have a friend of mine personally who got the shot and ended up with pericarditis. I don't make this up. I worked in quality with him in 1998. Jack, I'm glad you're doing better. And you hear about all these nightmares that are not being publicized. A friend of mine, a dear friend, Joe, received a text, and Gail received a text about doing a trial on the first shot of COVID and also a booster. They're doing trials now, testing now after the Pandora's box has been opened. Unbelievable. Let's bring out Albert Bourla. Albert, what do you think about that?
I'm a 59-year-old man. I'm very healthy. I'm not going to jump the line. We made it in the sun. We made it in the sun.
He was probably sunning himself somewhere, making it in the sun, okay? And I say this not to make fun of him. I say it to make fun of you, who were foolish enough to do this. You know, it is absolutely abominable what is going on. In fact, we have a certificate that I want to show you that we are issuing. And here it is. This is the certificate for the unvaccinated. It is more important than a Yale degree. It is more important than a Harvard or Wharton School of Business a degree. It is the most precious piece of paper one can have. This is it, right here, the unvaccinated, because it takes a little bit of thought process. When I hear people say, I had to take it or else I would have lost my job. Well, take a look at your job. Take a look around you. Can they find people? They can't. So that's an excuse. Oh, I had to do it. My family members, my fellow citizens. And then you have to listen to herd immunity. You know, I am no scientist. I am no biologist. I'm no chemist. But when you have an individual, and I'm going to say this, you'll find it in the video down below, Charles Lieber, who was the head of the chemistry department at Harvard. And Harvard denied any relationship with China, with Charles Lieber, who was part of their talent plan, where China goes around to all the universities and grabs the intellect of those universities in the United States and other places and utilizes them to develop Chinese skills and industry. When you have Charles Lieber, who's a specialist in both biological and electrical nanotechnology, you have an issue. When you have the FBI grab a hold of him right when COVID broke, why? How? How did they know? Who knows? They all sit together. It is absolutely abominable. When you have Pfizer and Johnson Johnson sitting together by their FDA, by the CDC, NIH, USDA, how could you? You didn't know. Now you know. I'm going to finish this video. If anybody needs a certificate of unvaccinated, be proud. As I said, it is more important than a Yale certificate, a Harvard certificate. It's more important. because you have to have some sense about yourself. You know, as Thomas Paine said, it is impossible to comprehend the moral mischief, if I may so express it, that mental lying has produced in our society. When a man or woman has so far corrupted and prostituted the chastity of their mind as to subscribe their professional beliefs to things they do not believe, they have prepared themselves a commission for every other crime. Thomas Paine. Contact me. We'll let you know. You get the certificate in frame. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS, @yahoo.com. I look forward to hearing from you.